In the realm of ancient myths, where gods and heroes intertwined, a journey of immense trials unfolded for Odysseus, the enduring king of Ithaca. As he traveled across the vast seas seeking the comfort of his distant homeland, a tempest brewed, nature's fury unleashed by the indignant sea god, Poseidon. This divine storm seized Odysseus's sturdy ship, tossing it violently amidst towering waves of gray and silver that reflected the stormy sky. All around him, the sea churned with wrath, and the forceful winds howled relentlessly, drowning out the sailors' cries. Amidst the chaos, the crew fought valiantly to steer the ship through the treacherous waters, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. They strained against the elements, their hands raw from the ropes they gripped with all their might. Yet, despite their perseverance, the mighty vessel succumbed to the sea's turbulent embrace. As the ship's mast snapped with a mighty crack, Odysseus was thrust overboard, cast into the sea's merciless grasp. In this daunting storm, Odysseus found himself adrift, struggling to cling to a piece of the wreckage that remained afloat amidst the swirling waters. The relentless waves crashed over him, each one testament to Poseidon's unyielding rage. Exhausted but resolute, Odysseus fought against the might of the sea, his will as enduring as the waves were fierce. He was a small figure amongst the vast raging ocean, holding on to hope and survival as he battled the elements. Amidst this turmoil, the goddess Ino, a benevolent spirit of the sea, took pity on Odysseus's plight. With divine grace, she emerged from the depths, her presence a beacon of hope in the storm-tossed world. Offering him her magical veil, she instructed him to let go of the plank and trust in her promise of safety. With renewed faith, Odysseus wrapped the sacred veil around his chest, and as he plunged through the frothy surf again, a miraculous change enveloped him. Buoyant, he floated gently, the wrathful sea, parting before the goddess's ethereal blessing. The currents guided Odysseus toward the distant shores of Scheria, home to the mystical Phaecians, renowned both for their hospitality and their enchanted ships. As the storm slowly relented, his weary form washed ashore, the once fierce sea now rhythmically lapping at his feet as dusk settled in dim tones of gray and blue. With his energy spent from his arduous ordeal, Odysseus crawled his way to a grove of welcoming olive trees, their leaves whispering softly in the night's cool breeze. When he sank beneath their shelter, the ground beneath him felt solid and reassuring. There, cradled by nature itself, he let the exhaustion of his journey overtake him, and he drifted into a restorative slumber. Yet, even as night descended, not all watchful eyes rested. High upon Olympus, Zeus, the king of gods, peered down at earth, observing the brave hero who lay sheltered by mortal world's rough embrace. Though Odysseus lay deep in sleep, the serenity of Scheria held a promise intangible yet real, a touch of hope renewed, a gentle balm after Poseidon's storm. As the sea's waves continued their eternal dance upon the shores, Odysseus rested, unknowing of what lay beyond the moonlit horizon. Among the protective olives, he lay dreamless, but in his heart stirred the stirring call of Ithaca, a goal not forgotten even in peaceful slumber. Scheria, with its people of profound kindness and strength, awaited him, and with the ends of one journey came the beginning of healing and friendship. As the first light of the early autumn dawn began to pierce the morning mist, Odysseus awoke to the sound of gentle laughter and murmuring voices. Exhausted from his ordeal, he lay hidden among the olive trees, his ears filled with the melodic chatter of maidens. The whisper of the river nearby mingled with their youthful voices, creating a harmonious symphony that brought a sense of peace to the weary hero. The group of young women played near the riverbank, dressed in flowing robes that fluttered like swans against the backdrop of the emerald landscape. They gathered around their princess, Nausicaa, whose grace and gentle spirit radiated like a beacon. Her presence was commanding yet soothing, and she moved with an air of innocence that belied her royal birth. The maidens unfolded their traditional linen cloths, intent on their morning task of washing clothes, all the while indulging in laughter and soft banter. Nausicaa, ever observant and compassionate, was the first to notice Odysseus stirring among the trees. Her eyes, lively and curious, weighed the situation carefully. Alone, without hesitation, and with the wisdom that surpasses her years, she approached a fallen hero. To Odysseus, her figure seemed both ethereal and reassuring, like a spirit sent to guide him through this mystical land. She greeted him with a kindness seldom encountered by strangers on foreign shores. Torn between gratitude and the remnants of his cautious nature, Odysseus shielded himself with the broad leaves scattered around him. He rose slowly, ever mindful of preserving some semblance of dignity. His ordeal left him ragged, yet his noble bearing was unmistakable, even when shrouded in nature's disguise. With a voice tempered by humility and a touch of his signature eloquence, Odysseus appealed to Nausicaa for aid, expressing his plight with a gentle grace that moved the young princess. Moved by his words and his air of noble suffering, Nausicaa instructed her maidens without delay. With a smile as warm as the morning sun, she ordered them to provide the stranger with fresh garments and assistance. The maidens, eager to follow their mistress's compassionate lead, hurried to wash and dress Odysseus, making him anew from the remnants of his trials. Their simple kindnesses illuminated the path of hope forward, a stark contrast to the trials he had recently endured. Odysseus, ever reflective, marveled at Nausicaa's kindness. Her grace appeared as one of those rare gifts bestowed by both parentage and divine favor. In these gestures, Odysseus found a glimmer of redemption, washing away traces of salt and sorrow. Each action restored not only his appearance, but also a measure of long-lost dignity and hope on his way back to Ithaca. Feeling a budding sense of kinship, Nausicaa shared with Odysseus her parentage and the stature of her family. Her father, King Alcinous, ruled this enchanting land with wisdom and benevolence that mirrored her own qualities. It was an invitation, embedded in her words, to step closer to her world, a place where human warmth and divine magic wove seamlessly together. Here, amidst the gentle rustle of the trees and the lullaby of the river, Odysseus glimpsed the vague outline of solace, the first true peace in many long years of hardship. With preparations underway for his introduction at the royal court, Odysseus stood at the brink of renewed purpose. The murmuring river, the maiden's laughter, and the promise shining in Nausicaa's eyes formed a bridge to a moment of renewal. Though the journey ahead remained uncertain, this island of Scheria offered more than reprieve. It promised healing for a spirit long tested by the capriciousness of the sea and the iron hand of fate. Thus, beneath the soft blue sky and the clearing clouds, Nausicaa and her maidens led Odysseus toward the palace. In their wake followed the whispers of destiny and the scent of new beginnings, beckoning him forward to meet the king and queen of this enchanted isle. As the afternoon sun filtered softly through the clouds, Nausicaa gracefully led Odysseus toward the grand palace of her father, King Alcinous. The path was lined with lush greenery, and the air carried a gentle promise of solace and renewal. Though their steps were deliberate, there was a sense of unhurried majesty to their approach, a prelude to the noble court where destiny awaited the weary traveler. The palace of the Phaeacians loomed before them in all its splendor. Though the journey had been short, the sight that met Odysseus' gaze was one of resplendent color and careful craftsmanship. The walls were imbued with a soft sheen of gold and silver, casting a serene glow that complemented the deep blue accents that hinted at the expansive sea by which this noble family had long prospered. Odysseus, though a man of many travels, felt a stirring of humility and awe as he beheld the magnificence of this royal abode. Led by Nausicaa, Odysseus hesitated slightly at the entrance, taking a deep breath. An air of quiet nervousness enveloped him, for though he had faced formidable foes and deceitful gods, the prospect of pleading his case before the Phaeacian monarchs stirred a different type of thought. Apprehension within him. Resolving to forge ahead, he finally stepped over the threshold, with the echo of Nausicaa's reassuring presence bolstering his courage. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. Queen Arete, with her keen gaze and gentle demeanor, noticed the foreign garb in which Odysseus was clad. Attentive to details, she approached with curiosity, asking him how he came to wear such attire, which bore the marks of unfamiliar lands and troubled wanderings. Her voice carried not just inquiry, but an undercurrent of understanding, as if she sought to see beyond the external and glimpse the man's very soul. In a voice imbued with truth and humility, Odysseus recounted the trials of his journey. He spoke of the tempestuous seas, cruel winds, and the many lands through which fate had carried him. His words wove a tapestry of relentless endurance and enduring hope, each tale a testimony to the indomitable spirit that refused to yield. Odysseus' story, told without embellishment, touched upon the hearts of the listeners, resonating with the purity of one who had known both glory and hardship. King Alcinous, noble and magnanimous, listened intently, his heart moved by the honesty and fortitude that permeated Odysseus' tale. With each word, the king's admiration grew, recognizing the endurance of a kindred spirit. Here was a man who had faced the gods' whims with dignity, and despite being cast adrift, still carried himself with grace. The trials of Odysseus, though uniquely his, mirrored the broader human struggle against the tides of adversity. Moved by the sincerity of Odysseus' account, King Alcinous extended the time-honored hospitality of the Phaeacians. With a gesture of welcome, he offered Odysseus a seat at the feast, a gesture underscoring the bond of fellowship the island lavished upon those in need. As Odysseus took his place among them, the warmth of the Phaeacian court wrapped around him like a comforting embrace, a promise of rejuvenation amidst his journey's ceaseless trials. The atmosphere in the palace transformed with the celebration of camaraderie and understanding. The day's drizzle cast a soft sheen over the banquet table, laden with the finest fare the island had to offer, from fruits bursting with flavor to wines that spoke of mellow reveries. Amidst the noble company, Odysseus found respite, his once weary spirit buoyed by the presence of those who, though strangers, extended kindness without reservation. Between laughter and stories exchanged, an understanding formed, unspoken, yet profound. It was the silent communication of kindred souls, recognizing the bravery and suffering etched onto each other's lives. As tales were swapped over the course of the feast, bonds were forged in this grand hall, adorned with rich decor, reflecting a tradition steeped in honor and respect. With every passing moment, Odysseus found a part of himself healing, a fragment of hope restoring within the safe haven of Scheria. As the light of the afternoon yielded to evening and the gentle rain continued to patter rhythmically outside, the scene within the palace took on a dreamlike quality. Voices mingled harmoniously with the shared laughter of kind hosts and the heartening presence of newfound friends. The feast continued, as did Odysseus' reflections on the nature of journeys and the unexpected kindnesses encountered along the weary roads of life. That night, Odysseus, who had wandered far from home, quietly realized that amidst the vibrant coterie of Phaeacian hospitality, he had regained a measure of faith in the kindness of strangers. It was faith not just in the people of this mystical island, but in the sustaining power of human connection that extended through lands and across seas, a divine magic in itself. The gentle sunset, shrouded in silver and gray hues, cast a serene light upon the Phaeacian sports field. The air was filled with a sense of festivity, as the Phaeacians, with their natural love for athletics, had gathered for a day of games. Odysseus stood among them, observing the contests with a thoughtful smile, grateful for the hospitality he had been shown. His heart felt lighter than it had in years, a feeling that had blossomed in the warmth of the Phaeacian realm. The Phaeacians, known for their athletic prowess, were eager for Odysseus to join and test his abilities alongside them. Polite yet insistent, they urged him to shed his reserve and participate, honoring their customs and the spirit of friendly competition. Odysseus initially declined with a humble gesture, conscious of his weariness from past trials and his longing to remain inconspicuous. However, a young Phaeacian, driven by youthful enthusiasm, playfully taunted him, suggesting that perhaps the tales of his strength were mere shadows of a once great hero. Odysseus, never one to shy from a challenge and feeling the tinge of his old pride awaken, decided to heed the call. Stepping forward into the central field, he picked up a discus, a gleaming circle of bronze. The crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on the figure who had captured their curiosity and admiration. With a measured breath, Odysseus gauged the weight, feeling the familiar pull of competition course through his veins. With a surge of energy, he launched the discus into the air, watching it arc gracefully across the field, farther than any Phaeacian had managed that day. A collective gasp rose from the assembly, followed by cheers of admiration that echoed across the fields. The skill and strength of Odysseus were undeniable, and the Phaeacians, always gracious, applauded with genuine respect and delight. King Alcinous, seated amongst his people under a makeshift canopy, watched with approval, nodding toward Odysseus. It was a clear, unspoken acknowledgement of the stranger's prowess, a universal language transcending spoken word. As the applause subsided, King Alcinous approached Odysseus, his expression one of intrigue. He praised the stranger, wondering aloud about his mysterious origins that hid such evident strength. Inspired by the warmth of the moment, and perhaps the pride from the competition, Odysseus made the decision to reveal himself. With measured words, he began to tell his tale, the true name, Odysseus, carrying a weight of history and adventure that captivated the Phaeacians around him. As the legendary name spread among those gathered, the Phaeacians listened intently, drawn deeper into the fabric of Odysseus's incredible journeys. In sharing his real identity, Odysseus wove the tales of his adventures, of escaping Cyclopes, resisting the enchantments of Circe, and navigating treacherous seas. Each narrative was a tapestry of courage and endurance, painting a vivid picture of a hero striving against divine winds and earthly challenges to return to his cherished homeland. The afternoon waned into a gentle dusk, and the Phaeacian musicians started to play, their soothing melodies blending with the cool evening breeze. It marked not just the end of athletic games, but also a silent understanding between Odysseus and his once unanticipated hosts, the Phaeacians. The land had accepted a stranger, and in return, had been graced by the stories of legendary deeds. The music, lilting and harmonious, was a reminder of shared humanity and fellowship, of journeys both finished and yet to come. As the final notes echoed over the fields, conversations turned to the future, the Phaeacians eager to provide Odysseus with safe passage and aid for the remainder of his journey home. Their generosity was without bounds, and Odysseus felt a deep sense of gratitude and renewed hope. The day's events, though simply joyful, had stirred something profound within him, a reminder of the strength he possessed and the kindness that waited in unexpected places. The warm embrace of companionship lingered as the festivities slowly wound down, and the Phaeacians returned to their homes. Odysseus, standing on the cusp of new beginnings, appreciated the tranquil beauty surrounding him, his heart ready to embark on the final leg of his journey, guided by the divine harmony whispered by wind and sea alike. As the evening shadows lengthened within the grand hall of the Phaeacian palace, a gentle rain fell outside, washing the world in a tranquil melody. Within this circle of warmth, where the hearth cast a golden glow, Odysseus prepared to share the art of his trials and triumphs. King Alcinous and the noble Phaeacians gathered eagerly around, their eyes reflecting the flickering light and anticipation of the stories to come. With a thoughtful gaze that seemed to look beyond the present to distant lands and past moments, Odysseus began his narrative. His voice was calm, like the lapping of waves upon a familiar shore. He first recounted the mighty fall of Troy, a memory woven with the cries of victory and loss. The Greeks, flushed with the success of their cunning trickery with the wooden horse, set sail, longing for home. Yet their journeys would prove as tumultuous as the battles they had left behind. Their first stop after Troy brought them to the land of the Cicons. Here, Odysseus related how the Greeks, still hungry for plunder, sacked the city, taking riches and celebrating their spoils. However, their delight was short-lived as the Cicons regrouped and returned with reinforcements. A fierce battle ensued, resulting in heavy losses for Odysseus and his men. Forced to flee, they took to the sea once more, burdened with both the weight of their treasures and a greater sense of caution. After battling the Cicons, their ships were blown off course, arriving unexpectedly among the Lotus Eaters. In this land of oblivion, Odysseus described the strange and intoxicating effect of the lotus plant, which his men consumed. It dulled all desires to leave, making them forget home and purpose. However, vigilant even in leisure, Odysseus went amongst his crew, rallying them from their stupor and resolutely ushering them back to their ships, ensuring none were left behind in the grip of such indifference. Continuing, Odysseus spoke of the Cyclops Polyphemus, a tale filled with peril that captured the attention of his Phaeacian listeners. He told of the gigantic one-eyed creature who imprisoned Odysseus and his men within a cavern. As dawn broke and fell over golden hills, Odysseus devised a clever plan. Under the guise of darkness, they blinded the Cyclops with a sharpened stake and escaped under the bellies of sheep. This act of cunning not only won them freedom, but also incurred the wrath of the Cyclops' father, Poseidon, the sea god, marking the beginning of great trials upon the ocean. Their adventures next brought them to the Isle of Aeolus, the keeper of the winds. Aeolus, welcoming and generous, gifted Odysseus with a bag containing all the winds, save the one that would carry them homeward to Ithaca. Trusting this treasure to him alone, Odysseus related the unfortunate curiosity of his crew who, in his absence, opened the bag, releasing the winds and scattering their ships to distant seas once more, dashing their hopes for a speedy return. Odysseus continued with tales of the Lastrygonians, the cannibalistic giants whose island they unwittingly visited. He recounted the terror of watching their ships destroyed by these monstrous beings, recounting the narrow escape with his own vessel and crew, leaving a once mighty fleet greatly diminished. This harrowing encounter emphasized the constant shadow of danger that accompanied their voyage. The story progressed to the island of Aiaia, ruled by the enchantress Circe. Odysseus spoke of how some of his men were transformed by her sorcery into swine, an experience both humiliating and enlightening. Yet, with the aid of Hermes' magical herb, Odysseus overcame Circe's powers, persuading her to restore his men and becoming her guest for a year. Here he learned significant wisdom, directions for his continued journey, and the promise of further guidance from the realm below. As Odysseus' voice filled the room with these vivid tales, the Phaeacians were utterly captivated. The narrative not only entertained, but served to link each listener ever closer to the enduring hero before them. They sat in silent admiration, their imaginations painting each adventure with the vivid strokes of Odysseus' words, reflecting on a world where bravery was etched into every horizon. The night was absorbed into these stories, enriched with thoughts that lingered softly like the dying embers of a fire. The tales of the past, with all their complexity and lessons, left both Odysseus and his audience in a reflective state, contemplating the paths they must yet travel. With this calm and conclusion, Odysseus paused, signaling the end of his tales for the night but leaving an eager anticipation for what stories might continue. As silence enveloped the Phaeacian hall, Odysseus began his narrative once more, his eyes reflecting the flickering warmth of the hearth. The room remained still, the quiet anticipation of more stories hanging in the air. Odysseus now turned to narrate his harrowing journey to the underworld, a place shrouded in shadows and whispers. It was Circe who had advised him to seek the wisdom of Tiresias, the blind prophet, to learn the fate decreed by the gods for his journey. With a mixture of courage and dread, Odysseus recounted guiding his ship toward the eerie land of the Cimmerians, beyond the realm of day. Upon reaching the dark shores, he described performing the ancient rites that would summon the spirits. The presence of the underworld was like a heavy mist settling over him, chilling the soul. When the specter of Tiresias appeared, Odysseus listened intently as the prophet foretold the trials yet to come, urging him to be wary of angering the sun god Helios and forewarning of Thea. Troubles he would still face upon returning to Ithaca. With his message complete, Tiresias faded back into the gloom, leaving Odysseus to reflect on his tenuous hold on homeward goals. The intensity of the tale held the listeners at the hearth captivated. Yet, Odysseus moved forward, his voice steady and calm, to speak of the song of the sirens. These creatures lay ahead, waiting to lure sailors to their doom with melodies sweeter than any the world had ever known. Aware of the dangers, but also of the irresistible allure, Odysseus shared how he commanded his men to fill their ears with beeswax. He alone was lashed to the mast of his ship, longing to hear the haunting strains but helpless to act on them. Through sheer will, he faced the sirens' beckoning song, emerging unscathed as the ship passed safely beyond their reach. A gentle pause marked a transition to the next ordeal, as Odysseus recalled navigating the treacherous passage between Scylla and Charybdis. Here, in a narrow sea, danger loomed from both sides, a monstrous whirlpool threatening to swallow any vessel whole, and a ravenous beast poised to snatch sailors from decks. With grim determination, Odysseus steered his ship between the two terrors, losing a few of his companions to Scylla's 6 gnashing heads, but refusing to let despair overwhelm their resolve. This sense of perseverance underlined the depth of Odysseus' enduring wisdom as he and his men continued onward, battered but alive. The story then shifted to the lush island of Thrinacia, home to the sacred cattle of Helios, the sun god. Here, Odysseus had warned his crew not to harm the divine herd. Yet, driven by hunger and unable to resist temptation, they disobeyed, sealing their fate. When Helios raged to the heavens, Zeus answered with punishment, conjuring a fierce storm that obliterated Odysseus' ship. Only Odysseus, held afloat by the gods' reluctant mercy, remained tossed upon the sea. In the wake of disaster, Odysseus found himself alone, drifting to the island of Ogygia, where the mystical Calypso took him in. Her island was one of unrelenting beauty, a place that seemed outside time, where mortals could live forever. The nymph offered him comfort and care, wishing to make him her eternal companion. Yet Odysseus' heart yearned for Ithaca and the life he had before. For 7 years he tarried there, until the gods, moved by his plight, commanded Calypso to let him go. The Phaecians listened, spellbound by Odysseus' chronicle of love, loss, perseverance, and divine intervention. Each story drew them deeper into the world of blurred lines between human struggle and destiny's dance with the gods. With a gentle sigh, Odysseus concluded his tale, and the warmth of the hearth light flickered over his weary face. His journey had been long and fraught with peril, Yet he stood steadfast in the presence of his Phaeacian hosts, inspired by their hospitality, grateful for their empathy. The room remained wrapped in a reflective hush. Each heart pondered upon the tales of Odysseus. In this moment of deep contemplation, one could almost glimpse the dim outlines of the trials that bound past and future, a testament to human resilience. The melodies of challenges overcome and of hope enduring lingered softly in the air. As the fire in the hearth crackled softly, Odysseus finished recounting his voyages to the attentive Phaeacians. His tales carried the weight of years and trials, with each episode of danger and resilience, painting a vivid tapestry that mesmerized his listeners. The stories of ventures into the underworld, where the sight of deceased heroes and a prophetic Tiresias guided him, and his ordeals with the enchanting sirens, were narrated with a tone colored by both reverence and relief for having survived those experiences. The audience sat in silence, their eyes reflecting the flickering firelight as they absorbed the gravity and wonder of his words. King Alcinous, ever thoughtful, leaned back, contemplating the persistent bravery and strategic mind that had seen Odysseus through his turbulent journey. Alcinous spoke of the extraordinary challenges Odysseus faced, acknowledging the divine interventions that both hindered and aided him. In this island realm of Phaeacians, where the seas could be kind or capricious, the journey of Odysseus stood as a testament not only to the hero's prowess, but also to the whims of the gods and the indomitable spirit of a man. Admiration was palpable in the air as the Phaeacians, both the courtiers and the common folk present, expressed their awe at Odysseus's unwavering will. Words of praise and admiration flowed naturally, a gentle offering of respect to the man who had endured so much. They recognized in him a kindred spirit, travelers of the sea themselves. They understood the language of the ocean and the heart's longing for home. King Alcinous, his voice warm with understanding, pledged his support to Odysseus, promising him a secure passage home to Ithaca. He assured Odysseus that the Phaeacians, known for their maritime mastery, would provide a ship equipped with the best crew to ensure a safe and swift journey. The relief on Odysseus' face was subtle, yet profound, as the promise of returning to Ithaca became more tangible with the king's generous words. The queen, Arete, echoed this sentiment of kindness and hospitality. She instructed her attendants to bring forth gifts, garments finely woven, crafted by Phaeacian hands, and treasures fit for a hero. Each item was a token of the island's respect and empathy, a gesture to buoy his spirits and lighten the burden of his travels. The tangible weight of these gifts was balanced by the intangible value of the hospitality and kindness they represented. As night deepened, a feast was prepared in honor of their noble guest. The banquet hall shimmered with festivity, yet maintained an atmosphere of warmth and camaraderie. Odysseus joined the Phaeacians at the table laid with fare from their harvest of land and sea. As he tasted the offerings of Scheria, Odysseus felt a renewed connection to simpler pleasures, a reminder of the comforts he sought to reclaim in his distant homeland. Odysseus spoke few words, but expressed heartfelt gratitude for the kindness and generosity bestowed upon him. He acknowledged the Phaeacians as more than mere hosts. They were benefactors of hope and friendship, adding a brilliant chapter to his tale of perseverance. As he raised his cup in thanks to the assembly, the sincerity in his voice was as clear as the still waters reflecting the late evening sky. The evening concluded with a solemn yet uplifting ritual as the Phaeacians, drawn together in unity, prayed to the gods to protect Odysseus on his impending journey. Their voices rose gently and harmoniously, a collective supplication under the celestial gaze of Zeus and the benevolent watch of the goddess Athena. The air was imbued with a sense of peace, a promise of divine favor for the journey ahead. With the stage set for his departure, Odysseus felt within him a burgeoning sense of anticipation. The gifts, the promises, and the heartfelt farewells were reminders of this island's unique magic, enriching his spirit for the path that lay ahead. Preparations were soon to follow, planned with care and precision, each step bringing him closer to home. As the gentle moonlight cast a silvery hue over the palace, Odysseus joined the Phaeacians for one last banquet in his honor. The hall, which had been the venue of many joyous feasts, was now filled with a bittersweet air, as laughter and stories intermingled with the awareness of his impending departure. The food laid before them was as sumptuous as ever, a reflection of the Phaeacians' boundless hospitality. Yet, beneath the jovial surface, there was a touch of melancholy that seemed to weave itself into every toast and tale. Nausicaa, the kind-hearted princess who had found Odysseus washed ashore, took a moment to speak to him. Her voice, soft and sincere, carried her wishes for his safe return to Ithaca and a life of peace and fulfillment. Her innocence and grace shone bright, a beacon of hope and simplicity juxtaposed against the tumultuous journey Odysseus had undertaken. Her words were imbued with genuine warmth, a bittersweet reminder of the haven that Scheria had become to him, albeit briefly. Queen Arete, wise and benevolent, offered her own parting words to Odysseus. With a voice that held both authority and kindness, she spoke of the journey ahead, advising him to heed the wisdom he had gained from his trials. As a token of her sincerity and admiration, she presented him with a talisman, a small, intricately crafted object meant to safeguard him in the days to come. Odysseus accepted this gift with gratitude, understanding that it was not the amulet itself, but the queen's heartfelt intentions that were his true protection. The time had come for Odysseus to share his farewell with King Alcinous. As they exchanged words, there was a mutual respect and understanding molded by the shared stories and nights spent in each other's company. King Alcinous, noble in his demeanor, expressed his hopes that the gifts bestowed upon Odysseus would serve him well and that his journey home would be blessed by the gods. In return, Odysseus articulated his heartfelt thanks, acknowledging the king's extraordinary generosity and the unerring kindness of his people. As the festivities drew to a natural close, a procession of Phaeacians accompanied Odysseus to the harbor. The procession was a somber yet celebratory march, the community honoring a guest who had become a cherished friend. The harbor lights flickered nearby, casting soft reflections in the water that mirrored the emotions stirred within those present. The path they walked was illuminated softly by nature and spirit alike, a calm recognition of farewells and new beginnings. Odysseus took a moment to reflect upon the kindness the Phaeacians had shown him. Their warmth and hospitality had imbued him with renewed hope that his journey, fraught with challenges, would soon lead him homeward. The enchantment of the island had not been in its mystical presence or magical artifacts, but in the human touch, the connection shared over time and tides. The Phaeacian ship awaited at the ready, its design and enchantment unlike any Odysseus had known. Built to ride the seas effortlessly and guided by divine influence, it promised a swift journey. The ship, sitting quietly in the gentle embrace of the night sea, seemed to absorb the emotions permeating the air, promising safety and swiftness over the waves. Finally, as the stars watched over the tranquil scene, the Phaeacians gathered, bidding Odysseus farewell. There were gifts of fond wishes, tears that glimmered like starlit dew, and promises to remember the man who had shared their hearth and their hearts. Odysseus, now at the threshold of the next chapter of his Odyssey, received their blessings in reverent silence, knowing the bond formed here would reverberate through his memories for all time. With the last farewell spoken, Odysseus boarded the ship, casting one final gaze upon those who stood, bathed in starlight. The ship, gentle underfoot and promising adventure, began its voyage away from Scheria. As it set sail, embracing the vast, soothing stretch of sea under the watchful moon, Odysseus felt the strength of his journey reflected in the undulating waves and the quiet, assured confidence of the Phaeacians' magical craft. Not an end but a continuation, a resumption of the path towards home, steered by the constellations that signaled the promise of Ithaca's distant shores. As the Phaeacians waved their gentle farewells under the starlit sky, Odysseus settled into his place on the enchanted ship, a vessel unlike any other. This ship, blessed by the gods, promised a smooth and peaceful passage to his long-yearned home, Ithaca. As the sails unfurled and the ship silently slipped away from the harbor, Odysseus, weary from years of trials and tribulations, found solace in the rhythmic lapping of the gentle waves against the ship's hull. It was as if the sea itself was cradling him toward his destiny, whispering of the warmth and safety he would soon find. The enchanted ship sailed with such grace and silence that it seemed more a creature of the air than of the sea. Its movements were guided by an unseen force, ensuring not a single obstruction met its path. The night was clear, apart from a misty drizzle that fell gently like a veil over the waters, giving an almost ethereal sheen to the moonlit sea. As Odysseus slumbered, the calm of the ship's journey mirrored the tranquility settling over his restless soul. Meanwhile, the Phaeacian crew attended to their duties with quiet dedication, moving with the same effortless grace as the ship they guided. Each sailor understood their role with an inherent precision, as if born to the task of shepherding travelers through the vast uncertainty of the ocean. They spoke little, concentrating instead on the harmony of their collective effort. Such was the nature of the Phaeacians, whose lives intertwined with the sea's rhythms like a well-composed melody. While the ship drifted over the tranquil waters, Odysseus dreamed of Ithaca. In his dream, the familiar images of his homeland unfolded: the rugged coastlines, the sprawling olive trees, and the stately figure of his wife Penelope, waiting with unwavering faith. In his vision, he saw Telemachus, his son, now grown, standing with the strength and potential of a true heir. These dreams, vivid and full of warmth, stoked the embers of hope within him, a reminder that his struggles were not in vain. The sea, vast and endless, provided a reassuring embrace. Stars, bright and numerous, carved a celestial path across the heavens, a guide for the enchanted ship. Each star seemed to twinkle with understanding, as though silently encouraging the wearied traveler. The gods, too, remained an unseen presence. Their influence felt more than seen, ensuring the ship stayed true to its unerring course. Such divine supervision was a gift to Odysseus, their threads subtly woven into the fabric of this quiet voyage homeward. The night stretched on in peaceful contentment, wrapping the ship in its cool embrace. As silence enveloped both sea and sky, it granted Odysseus the opportunity to replenish his spirit. For a man who had faced the very edge of despair, this serene passage through the night was a balm to his soul. His body lay at rest, but his heart danced to the rhythm of the lapping waves and celestial symphony above. As the ship continued its divine passage, the first hues of morning began to bloom on the horizon. A gentle light washed over the sea, softening the stars' brilliance. Slowly, the mist lifted, revealing the shape of Ithaca's shores in the distance. It was a sight filled with promise, a preface to the eventual reunion with family and the reclamation of his life. Those familiar landforms rose before Odysseus like long-lost friends, marking the beginning of the next chapter in his Odyssey. Preparing to awaken, Odysseus unconsciously reached out to the comforting memories born of his dreams. This brief moment of peace, juxtaposed against the many trials behind and the challenges ahead, granted him a rare clarity of spirit. Onward the ship forged, the Phaeacian crew as silent as the watchful gods, ensuring the hero's arrival was both secretive and certain. As the sun painted the sky with its warming palette, the journey faded into completion, ushering in a gentle transition toward the unfolding events awaiting on Ithacan soil. As the night gave way to the gentle light of dawn, the enchanted ship bearing Odysseus stealthily approached the secluded bay of Ithaca. The Phaecians, masters of the sea, guided the vessel with practiced ease, ensuring their arrival was delicate and unnoticed. The ship, guided by divine watchfulness, slipped silently through the waters, eventually resting its keel on the soft sands of Odysseus' homeland. Odysseus awoke to the sight he had yearned for through years of perilous wanderings, the familiar shores of Ithaca. His heart swelled with a quiet joy as he gazed upon the rugged cliffs and the olive groves he recognized so well. This was the land of his birth, the kingdom he had fought for, and now it was finally within reach. The realization of being home at last brought a calming sense of fulfillment to his restless spirit. The Phaeacian crew, still under the cover of dawn's mist, worked efficiently to unload the treasures gifted to Odysseus by their king, Alcinous. Careful not to disturb the stillness of the morning or alert any unsuspecting eyes, they placed chests of precious gifts and garments onto the shore. Their task complete, they quietly took their leave, leaving Odysseus behind with naught but a whisper of the sea breeze to mark their passage. As the last of the Phaeacian ships disappeared over the horizon, Odysseus took a moment to express his gratitude. Though alone now on the deserted beach, the friendships forged in the land of the Phaeacians warmed his heart. Their unwavering hospitality and generosity had been a beacon of hope during his arduous journey, and he silently vowed to honor their kindness by carrying on with resolve. Standing amidst the gifts, Odysseus surveyed his surroundings with the cautious eye of a seasoned warrior. Secrecy was paramount. His return must be discreet to avoid the cunning eyes of rivals who may still roam his kingdom. Ithaca's landscape, etched in his memory, offered solace yet demanded vigilance. His heart filled with both anticipation and strategic intent as he concealed the treasures in a hidden nook away from prying eyes. In that moment, Athena, goddess of wisdom and his steadfast guardian, appeared before Odysseus. Her presence, serene and commanding, brought an added sense of reassurance and guidance. Knowing the trials still to be faced, Athena's counsel was invaluable. She spoke of clever strategies and the necessity of patience, urging him to employ his famed cunning to reclaim what was his. With Athena's guidance, Odysseus began to map out his next steps. He pondered the reunion with his beloved family and the kingdom he left behind so many years ago. Ideas blossomed as he strategized a tactful return, mindful that many dangers could lie in wait. His heart ached for Penelope and Telemachus, his steadfast son, whom he had left as but a child. Taking a moment to breathe in the gentle air of his homeland, Odysseus felt cocooned in a sense of quiet optimism. The path was fraught with challenges, yet buoyed by the goddess's wise whispers, he found the fortitude to proceed. Each step of planning was touched by the newfound hope that had been absent for so long amidst his epic trials. Determined to regain his place in Ithaca, Odysseus set about blending into his surroundings, drawing upon Athena's gift of transformation to move unseen through familiar yet changed lands. Threads of opportunity and resolution wove through his thoughts as he considered his initial moves among potentially hostile territory and those once loyal now unknown. As the light gradually conquered the enveloping mist, Odysseus braced himself for the journey within his own borders. The tranquil yet weighty task of reclaiming his life awaited him, filling him with longing and resolve. Athena's presence lingered, promising divine support as he set out to craft the destiny he had envisioned during long years of struggle. Though alone in the physical sense, Odysseus knew he was far from solitary. The very earth beneath his feet spoke a language of memories and promises, urging him forward. His steps would soon echo on paths remembered, and his family, his kingdom, his Ithaca, all lay within reach, ready to welcome the hero return. As the first light of dawn broke over the tranquil shores of Ithaca, the mist began to clear, unveiling the lush greenery of the island's forest. Odysseus stood amidst the trees, breathing in the familiar scent of his homeland, a sense of determination coursing through him. In this serene moment, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, revealed herself fully before him. Her presence was commanding yet comforting, a beacon of hope and guidance for the hero. Athena gazed upon Odysseus, her eyes reflecting the resolution of his storied journeys. "Your endurance and cunning are unmatched, Odysseus," she praised, her voice carrying the weight of divine assurance. Each word resonated deeply within him, reminding him of the trials he had overcome and the challenges that lay ahead. Together they contemplated the intricacies of the obstacles that awaited him in Ithaca, laying the groundwork for the trials he must face to reclaim his life and throne. Understanding the need for stealth and subtlety, Athena set about transforming Odysseus' appearance. With gentle ease, she wove her magic, altering his visage to that of a humble traveler. This disguise would allow him to navigate the island unnoticed, granting him the advantage of surprise against those who had invaded his household during his absence. As his features shifted, Odysseus felt a growing sense of readiness, buoyed by Athena's unwavering support. Their conversation turned to strategies for reclaiming his household. Under the soft silver light filtering through the forest canopy, they mapped out the steps he would need to take. Athena's wisdom was clear and precise, offering directions like a north star for his heart and mind. They spoke of rallying trusted allies, testing loyalties, and the patience required to execute every move with precision. These discussions were both practical and comforting, as they addressed the hurdles with clarity and foresight. With the plan taking shape, Odysseus set out under his new guise to reconnect with loyal friends and supporters who had remained true during his long absence. His heart ached with anticipation and hope, knowing he would soon be reunited with those who had not forgotten him. As he embarked on this critical mission, he was aware of the protective gaze of Athena, a constant and reassuring presence in his journey back to sovereignty. Telemachus, his son, was an integral part of this strategy, and Athena vowed to keep him under her protective wing. She assured Odysseus that she would watch over the young man, guiding him and keeping him safe until the time was right for father and son to join forces. This promise strengthened the bond between Odysseus and the goddess, knitting together an alliance that was as enduring as the mythos of the gods themselves. As the sky brightened, revealing hues of green and blue-gray, Odysseus felt a renewed sense of purpose. His bond with Athena had grown, steeped in mutual understanding and respect. With each step, he walked away from the shore and deeper into Ithaca, armed with the knowledge that he was not alone. The goddess's foresight and strategic insight would be vital as he maneuvered through the complexities that awaited him. The soft drizzle that accompanied the clearing mist seemed to whisper promises of renewal. It was as if the world around him echoed the quiet certainty of his resolve. Odysseus, ever the wise and thoughtful leader, carried Athena's guidance with him, the seeds of destiny sown beneath the canopy of Ithaca's early morning light. With her support, he embraced the task ahead, ready to reclaim his life and legacy with the might and mind that only he, and those like Athena who stood by him, could wield. With Athena's support, the journey toward reclaiming Ithaca truly began. The forest bore witness to a launch of destiny, set in motion on the shores of the hero's beloved home, and Odysseus, ever enduring, embraced the path set before him with courage anew. Odysseus, transformed by Athena's divine touch, wandered through the familiar yet slightly transformed lands of Ithaca. The gentle rain falling from an overcast sky seemed to echo the quiet determination in his heart. This was his homeland, Yet he moved through it as a stranger, hidden by the goddess's disguise, his true identity known to none. His steps were firm, each carrying the weight of his resolution to reclaim what was rightfully his. His journey led him to a humble farmhouse nestled within the countryside. Here, amidst earthy brown fields and muted green pastures, he sought out Eumaeus, the steadfast swineherd who had remained loyal throughout Odysseus' long absence. Their meeting was understated yet profound, as Odysseus gauged Eumaeus' loyalty through careful conversation. Eumaeus, unknowing of Odysseus' true identity, spoke warmly of his long-lost master's virtues, his words filled with genuine admiration and a persistent hope for his return. As they spoke, Eumaeus relayed the troublesome news of the suitors in Odysseus' home, vying for Penelope's hand in marriage. Odysseus listened intently, his heart yearning to see Penelope, yet knowing the time was not right. The tales of the suitors' arrogance and the burden on Penelope only served to strengthen his resolve. In these quiet moments, amidst the soft rain and the whispers of the wind, Odysseus' plans for reclaiming his household crystallized. The conversation turned to Telemachus, his son, whose role would be crucial in the unfolding plans. Eumaeus spoke with pride of Telemachus's growth and bravery, attributes that made Odysseus' heart swell with paternal pride, even as it ached with longing. "Eumaeus, the gods bind us all in their inscrutable ways," Odysseus said, his voice firm yet gentle, a disguised plea for continued faith and secrecy. "You must remain vigilant and watch over my household. The time will come when my true identity must be revealed, and in that moment, your loyalty will shine brightest." With these words, a bond was reaffirmed between master and servant, a shared understanding that transcended Odysseus' disguise. His one-time ally was now the keeper of his secrets, a vital link in the chain of his imminent return. As the chapter unfolded in the rustic Ithacan countryside, simplicity belied the gravity of what lay ahead. For amidst the modest abode of the swineherd and the gentle rhythms of everyday life, Odysseus' resolve took form. The resolve to reclaim his household and throne crystallized, not through grand proclamations, but through quiet, unwavering determination. Each step, each word spoken, fortified his purpose. The time was drawing near. Underneath the calm veneer of the island's pastoral beauty, the tide of fate was subtly turning, preparing for the reclamation of what was lost. In the peace of the countryside, under the soft drizzle of rain, Odysseus stood firm, embodying quiet optimism. He knew the obstacles would be many, and the path fraught with old and new challenges. Yet his heart was steady, guided by both Athena's wisdom and his unwavering spirit. With each passing moment, the stage was set. Everything he had endured, from the trials on distant lands to the hopes kindled by the kindness of strangers, had led to this pivotal juncture. In this tranquil setting, it was the calm before the storm. The moment before he would tip the scales and reclaim his life. And so, the chapter closed not with fanfare, but with a whisper of determination and the gentle promise of the dawn that would soon break over Ithaca.